Tyler, what could this possibly mean for the current standoff between the U.S. and Iran?
Well, Danny, we have to keep in mind that Iran's president has been one of those more moderate, relatively voices in the government that has been advocating for diplomacy to end the conflict, though, as you're outlining there, we do know that there are different factions within the Iranian government that have made it more difficult in order to reach some sort of breakthrough. So maybe this is a bid to try to renew the focus on diplomacy ahead of what is anticipated to be some more economic pressure measures instituted by the U.S. We are expecting on Monday for the U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent to unveil what that is going to look like in more detail, though the administration has already previewed that it is going to go after those countries that still keep up any sort of financial ties with Iran, of course, raising questions on whether or not the U.S. will particularly target China, considering that Beijing does remain the top importer of Iranian crude to the tune of importing about 90% of Iranian petroleum exports. I will point out, though, Danny, we did get this new data earlier today from the research firm Kepler, which shows that the readily available Iranian oil to Chinese customers is rapidly declining, showing the strength of the U.S. naval blockade. So any further action by the U.S. targeting China could really risk upsetting that U.S.-China trade truce at the moment. So we'll have to see where it goes from here. But maybe some of these comments from Iran's president is giving us a little more glimpse into some of the diplomacy that could be happening behind the scenes.
Just to stay on what you mentioned, Tyler, that we're going to hear from Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent on Monday. He did also argue that markets, specifically oil markets, are misunderstanding what the administration is doing. Never a good sign when you have to argue against markets. But Tyler, what could we get unveiled from the Treasury Secretary next week?
So there's a few different avenues that we're looking at here. We do know that the U.S. is going to try to target these other countries that still keep up these financial ties. That doesn't necessarily just mean China. We know that Turkey is the second largest importer of Iranian goods. India is also a huge trading partner, and it feels like the region has been bracing for this action. The UAE earlier this week decided to cut off all financial ties with Iran, which was pretty remarkable since the UAE was Iran's top trading partner last year, though, of course, we know there are different factors in that particular example, since the UAE has been a main focus of Iran's retaliation, even recently as this week, saying that they had to strike down some alleged missile attacks. Our own analysts at Bloomberg Economics say that this could take form in different avenues, different shapes. This could be so-called secondary tariffs. The president has previously threatened this of up to 25%. We could see some more targeted sanctions, particularly when it comes to those Chinese refiners. We also could see the U.S. move to seize frozen Iranian assets that are under U.S. jurisdiction, though that may be a little easier said than done just because a third-party country would likely have to get involved. So that would take a much more coordinated effort with the U.S. and some of our allies. So at this point, we're really awaiting those details. But the administration has made clear they're not going to fully restart military operations, but they are fully ready to take this escalatory route instead.